Hello, my name is Robert Brew, and today I'm going to talk to you about my placement search journey and my placement experience at Whirlpool Corporation. I chose to undertake a placement year because, aside from setting me apart from other candidates looking for a job after graduation, it would also give me a sense of knowing if I enjoy the working lifestyle or prefer to continue with the academia route. I also wanted to gain hands on experience and knowledge and skills on the job from highly knowledgeable and skilled colleagues I work with. These were my main reasons for taking on a placement year. It hasn't been an easy journey for me to find a placement year. I probably applied to more than 103 companies with 132 applications, with 2 or 3 applications to the same company for different internship roles sometimes. But I am glad I kept going and kept on striving to the very end, which didn't seem to be in sight. My application processes for internships started in my first and second years, which were predominantly for summer internships, to give me an upper hand when it came to the search for my year in industry. After a few applications in my first year, I managed to get an interview with Howden's Joinery in Howden, a kitchen and household design and fitting company, which is well known in the Yorkshire region. My first professional interview was fairly relaxed as there was only one interviewer. It was from this interview that my journey of interviews began. I obviously wasn't the successful candidate, but I learned that I could do a lot better to improve my responses to certain questions, but I didn't know how to do that yet. Moving on to the second year, this was a stressful year with a lot of coursework and university work to do, and I also started a night shift part-time work at the time in a factory in Hull. I tried to apply again to a few companies in the Yorkshire region for a summer placement. Luckily enough, I had another interview with a fabrication company in Hull known as CF Stratus. The interview for this was initially more stressful since there were 3 people involved who were interviewing me, basically. However, I was told to be calm and relaxed, and that helped me articulate my answers better. Prior to this interview, I had a meeting with a careers advisor, and she introduced me to the car and star technique, which helped me structure my responses. I was shown around the factory to understand the way things worked on the site. It was an interesting experience. However, I didn't secure the summer internship either. After a second disappointment at the interview stage, I just got built into my core that looking for an internship wouldn't be that easy, especially with so many other students looking for that experience as well. I had to do something at university that would make me stand out from other candidates. For this reason, in my third year, in spite of it being the most tedious of all years, I decided to sign up to be the treasurer for the Engineering Society on campus and try to be active as much as possible alongside my university work, final year project work, and my part time factory work. In late September of 2018, I started applying for the mechanical engineering placement roles, at least one application each day, as this was the time when vacancies for these roles were being advertised for usually the bigger companies. It involved a lot of online tests and online video recorded interviews, which were very unsuccessful in most cases. One key factor I realized was the need to tailor keywords in the job description to that of your CV and cover letter to have a higher chance of success. I didn't do this from the start of my application, but I learned this later on and applied it, and I got further in application processes than before. So I would highly recommend, although it can be a pain to do this, if you want something badly, you have to put in the sweat and effort. After 3 months of application after application and a couple of rejections at this time, I finally got my first interview for a placement year in mid-January 2019 with a company in Oxford called HR Wallingford. This was a consultancy in civil engineering, environmental hydraulics, and the management of water, the water environment, and it involved a lot of waveform and wave control techniques. The interview was with 2 interviewers, which wasn't too bad as I had 3 interviewers in the past. I did very well with everything else except the technical questions, which I messed up a bit with my answering. After this interview, there was another interview, a Skype interview towards the end of January with Rockwell Collins Aerospace, which wasn't successful either. And the video quality from their end wasn't very clear, so it was very difficult to understand what was being said in the interview. So in the future, I would recommend, if you have a live video interview, ensure everything is smooth and flowing to avoid disappointment. But yeah, this wasn't successful either. At this point, I had to come up with an alternative to boost my applications to make it stand out. I thought about it and I came up with a project portfolio to attach to my applications. And the project portfolio contained projects I had done from the first year to the third year to help boost the CV and my applications overall. My next interview, sometime in mid March, was with Siemens Gamesa in Greensby. I had to do a presentation on the wind energy sector and what I thought the way forward was for its future. For this presentation, I prepared really well for it and tried to avoid using a script and tried to memorize what to say for every slide. However, midway through the presentation, I rushed through it and fumbled a bit on my words during presenting. The interview was better. The interview was better though. In the end, it was between me and another candidate, and the other candidate got it apparently. I had another opportunity to have my first assessment center with Centrica in Hull. We had about 12 people competing for 3 positions. The interview was your usual interview style questions, which I believe I did quite well at. We then had a task to do as a group to discuss a topic and present to a panel what we thought of the topic. It was generally a good experience and helped me know what to expect in a similar scenario in the future since I didn't get a role in the end. Another assessment center came knocking on my door, this time with Cummins in Peterborough. I had to stay the night before the assessment day in a hotel and go in early the morning of the event. The interview for this was very relaxed and I answered all the questions without a sweat. However, my presentation was a bit rusty as I kept trying to recall my lines for each slide and this didn't seem to work. I also went over the allocated time for the presentation, which wasn't good either. The candidate who got the role in the end had a script for his presentation and he managed to read it and tried to make eye contact as well. So I decided I might try to do this with one of my next presentations. Overall, it was a good day and it was nice making connections with the engineers in the industry and understanding how they try to make the systems work. One of my proudest interview experiences was with Gatwick Airport in the third week of May. The role involved working with the civil engineering and mechanical engineering team to help expand the airport over the next year. I asked for advice from one of the university's career advisors about this, and I was directed to read more about the company's culture and values and include that in the what do you know about the company question. This and many other factors, including the friendly vibes between me and the interviewers, helped me get to the second stage of the interview. A few weeks after, towards the end of June, I however just realized I had to make a presentation as part of the interview on my way home after the first interview when going through my exchange of emails. So in the future, do check for attachments of any kind in an invitation for an interview. After a successful telephone interview with an HR intern, I had an email from Whirlpool Corporation to come for an assessment center in Bristol the following week. The manufacturing site here designs and manufactures tumble dryers for the whole of the UK, the European market, and the Americas. With my experience of 3 failed assessment centers, I was not willing to go for this assessment center. Also, I spent so much money in the last month and wasn't financially able to pay for the cost of traveling to Bristol, considering traveling so much for interviews in the last month. This would be the furthest I would travel for a placement here. My mom convinced me to try it anyways. For this assessment center, I wrote out a script to guide me through my presentation, and I was more fluid than ever. I was very pleased with the results of that. Before the presentation, we had interviews in which I was able to answer all questions to the best of my ability. I also got more involved in the 2 activities we had to do. The first, assembling a part of a tumble dryer, and the second, coming up with a campaign to promote the company at the university through the careers fair. The teams were switched around, so we had different teams to work with for each task. For each activity, we had to present our findings to the assessors. At the end of the assessment center, I almost forgot to shake the assessor's hand as I did with Cummins, but I remembered this time around, so it wasn't too awkward. I got a phone call the next day to confirm if I was willing to take the role, and I immediately said yes. I was really elated. I finally secured something after a lot of lessons learned and a lot of disappointment. My first day of placement was very exciting, nonetheless very tiring as I had a lot of information to take in. I had the chance to meet more members of my immediate team, which was the quality department, and those of the wider team as well. Everyone was very nice and warm towards me, and so were they towards the other interns. We had an introduction by the HR manager and a health and safety induction as well. Afterwards, we're given our personal laptops to work on. We're connected to the system, to the Whirlpool system, and given a Google training crash course to familiarize ourselves with the various tools we may need for the next year. The following day, to familiarize myself with some of the duties of the quality team, I got involved with the different sectors of the quality department to know more about what they do. And as the days went by, I managed to work on different projects on different sides of the factory. There was a lot of design and quality analysis involved, which I found very useful from my university and academic studies. There were situations where I had to look at a drawing and be able to tell if the part that was being manufactured on the site was to the right specification or to the right size. And that I found useful with my experience in university through my CAD and SolidWorks experience. My next rotation was in the workplace organization department, which essentially improves the workplace and factory design and enhances the flow of parts, sub-assemblies, and activities on site. It also involves creating standard operating procedures (SOPs) for each activity or operation on each station for for the main assembly lines and for the sub-assembly lines which feed the main line. I got involved in a lot of projects as well for this department, which include placing video cameras at specific areas of the coding zone, which is where the operators work um, within their station, to gather that data and be able to analyze the videos to be able to reallocate certain activities at the station to different stations to make the process fluid or more efficient on that line or on the line of investigation. Advice I would give to fellow students who be looking to pursue a placement here will be, first of all, know which field or option or fields you want to go into. Start applying as early as you can. The biggest branded companies start taking on applications early in the academic year than other companies. Um, I think you ideally want the bigger companies because, or the bigger branded companies, because that would look greater on a CV, or that look great on a CV, and you get to pick from a lot of expertise and knowledge from people within the company. Um, Ensure to prepare thoroughly for your interviews and assessment centers if you do have one, and always remember to be yourself. If you try to be someone else, it can be detected easily, and it would be be a bad look on you and the university. So be as professional as you can possibly be. Treat everyone with respect, even if they don't reciprocate it. Be aware you may have to bear some travel costs going for interviews or assessment centers. However, always ensure to ask the company if they are willing to cover the transportation costs or even accommodation nearby to stay the night before the assessment day or interview day. I had a couple of those, as you probably know now. A firm handshake goes a long way when meeting your interviewer for the first time, as well as how confident you are and how you portray yourself throughout the interview or assessment day. Engage with the employers and show genuine interest in their products and services and their activity and their daily activities, and maybe even the latest movie they watched, or if you are into sports, what sports they like and what team they support. Be present as much as possible, but not too much, and you'll be remembered. If you are religious, pray before and after your interviews, and that brings comfort and release stress for some people. Always do intensive research into the company, from their websites to the latest and past news on them, to be aware of what's going on, and you could even bring these up in interviews when asked if you have any questions. And the biggest advice is to be never be disheartened if you don't get the role. there will be a lot of roles to apply to, and keep trying and never give up. I secured my role in August, 1 month before the university was due to start the next academic year. After numerous applications since October the previous year, remember to always tailor your CV to the role applied. Chain applications with the same CV with no alterations to suit the role in question will hardly be considered. Always cross-check with the University Career Service um, before sending off an application. Before sending off an application, um, they play a big part in improving. Yeah, they played a big part in improving my CV and my responses to interviews. So I would definitely recommend them. Thanks for your